What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering video. And at MagicCon Atlanta that took place 2 weekends ago, of course, which featured Pro Tour Edge of Eternities, which we did cover day 1, day 2, and the top 8 with a bunch of the different information and stuff that we got from it, metagame win percentages, the metagame breakdown, how the tournament actually went, with some of the top players at the event, what decks they were playing, and so on, and just some general thoughts as well from the event. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and check those out. Those are the last 2 videos as of the uploading of this video. Aside from this one, obviously, that we ended up covering the Pro Tour. Maybe not as extensively as I would like to. There's definitely some awkwardness in kind of like my personal schedule with trying to kind of get these videos out and try to formulate any coherent thoughts, which if you've been around my channel for a while, end up turning into rambling soups that end up having a ton of information and unfortunately do repeat ourselves from time to time. But nonetheless, there's a lot of good information there. There's a lot to know before actually getting into the regional championships, which are going to be taking place next weekend, not this weekend coming up, but the next weekend. We have New York Comic-Con coming up, which is also going to give us the to be announced Universes Beyond set that you see here, because you're probably peeking, you're not listening to me, you're just looking at what I have pulled up on the screen. You just make eye contact with me, look with me. So we're going to be covering one of the major announcements from the MagicCon Atlanta, which is the fact that we are getting 7 Magic the Gathering sets, full Magic the Gathering sets for 2026. Thankfully, this is not going to be the norm. You can see in this little paragraph right here. They had so much awesomeness that couldn't wait, and they're going to be going back to 6 Magic sets. While I do kind of agree that some of these sets are probably going to be pretty cool and pretty awesome, and there's always just kind of like these great designs in terms of just individual sets, I think 7 is definitely going to be pushing it, and we're going to hear all through 2026 about basically just not getting to enjoy any of the sets that are actually released, and how product fatigue is really kicking in for everybody except maybe the hardcore collectors of the game. But that's neither here nor there. We talk about competitive Magic here, so we're going to be going over kind of what these sets are going to look like in the very early stages, while of course we are waiting for the spoiler season for Lorwyn Eclipsed. We're going to be also trying to finish out 2025 with like Avatar and things like that. So definitely want to, I guess, just kind of check out the channel, because we're going to be kind of bringing some of this news, going over some of the spoilers of the new sets that are going to be coming out for Magic the Gathering. There's going to be a lot of them, so you definitely don't want to miss our hardcore, hard-hitting analysis on some of the sweetest cards that are going to be introduced to Standard and potentially Modern playable cards. But, before we get into the article itself, I just ask if you're not already subscribed to the channel, and you've probably been watching my videos, you may not even know that you're not subscribed to the channel. So why don't you go ahead and check out, by my little channel name down there, hit that red subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you know when future videos get posted. It's a free, easy way to support me and my content as we kind of continue our march towards 2,000 subscribers and hopefully getting to some kind of normalcy. When you expect to watch a lot of competitive videos on the channel, hopefully things will kind of get a little less crazier and we're able to get to some sort of normalcy here. Also, feel free to check out the description down below if you want even more content. I have my Twitch channel as well as my Discord server, the Casual Spikes Podcast YouTube channel, and a code for the sponsor of the channel, Manatraders. If you use that code in the description down below, you can sign up for Manatraders and get 5% off your monthly subscription. You're probably wondering, what is Manatraders? Manatraders is a subscription service that you can use to rent cards on Magic the Gathering Online. This is very cool and very easy to use, and I've been using it for over 5 years. Essentially, this allows me as a player and as a content creator to pick up and play various different types of decks without having to dump a ton of money into Magic the Gathering Online. And with near instant rentals, you're not really stuck waiting on actually getting any cards that you want to play with. You're just able to, in a matter of seconds, get a brand new deck and load it up and start playing in those competitive leagues or challenges on Magic the Gathering Online. And again, if you use that code in the description down below, you get 5% off your monthly subscription. I'd like to thank Manatraders for being a sponsor to the channel. Now, let's go ahead and check out the future of Magic the Gathering. It's a little long-winded. That's where you can just find someone who's passionate about what they do here, and that's just kind of what ends up happening here. Even if there's some people that don't like it, that's totally fine. I'm not your cup of tea. That's totally cool. But what is people's cup of tea is Magic the Gathering sets. And, of course, this is in order from when they will be released, and we will have the dates and stuff. You see, Lorwyn Eclipse is going to be released on January 23rd. But we have a to-be-announced Universes Beyond set. Again, New York Comic-Con is going on the weekend that this video is getting posted, which I believe on October 10th is going to be when we get the announcement. This is speculated. I don't know if it's not necessarily confirmed, but it is heavily speculated and nearly confirmed that this is going to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover. It is going to be a Nickelodeon crossover. We do know that. And that seems to be the running theory, is that is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which, even for something that's been out for, God, I don't even know how long at this point, it still ends up being really popular. In fact, I remember playing a game called Knockout City that they did like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover, and I just thought that was crazy because then the game shut down like 6 months later. So hopefully that's not the case for Magic. I highly doubt it. They just literally print money with these Universes Beyond sets. But, it is what it is. And then we have a Secret Strixhaven. And then we have 2 Universes Beyond sets back to back with Marvel's Superheroes and The Hobbit. We have Reality Fracture, which is an in-universe Magic set. And then we're ending the year with Magic the Gathering Star Trek. Again, this is going to be 7 sets released in 2026. This, thankfully, hopefully, is not going to be the norm, and we're going to go to 6 in 2027, unless these all absolutely just knock it out of the park in terms of money, in which Hasbro is going to tell, Wizards, like, hey, you need to put out 7, and potentially could see, like, 8. That would be absolutely insane. I really hope we're not working towards, like, 1 set every month, because that would make it nearly impossible to like keep up with like what's going on and really appreciate kind of what's going on. And I think that was the beauty of like 4, maybe even 5 set releases a year, but that's neither here nor there. But the first one we can be excited for is Lorwyn Eclipsed. This is going to be the return to Lorwyn. I also think that in my little, tinfoil hat, this is kind of like why we see a lot of like return to sets instead of exploring new planes and everything like that, and kind of like these new ideas. I mean, I remember even like Kamigawa being with someone like, we're never going back to it, and then Kamigawa Neon Dynasty comes out. But whatever, it is what it is. But with Lorwyn, of course, this was like a very nostalgic set for a lot of players. There's a lot of like typal synergies that had come out of this, and honestly, like even kind of looking back and like reading some of the articles and stuff, this is like from the Pro Tour era and just the competitive play of these. Of course, players playing Bitter Blossom, like fairy style decks, and of course like mono white aggro, those sort of things. I think players are really nostalgic for. And we actually have some really cool cards here. Of course, Evoke returning as a mechanic into Lorwyn Eclipsed, which you essentially pay this alternate cost, and the creature will enter the battlefield. Typically, you do get an enter the battlefield ability. There are some Evoke creatures that do have a when this leaves the battlefield, and those evoke costs usually reflect being more than the actual mana cost. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see that. I think that the ideal way that this ends up happening is that you have evoke creatures that have a cheaper evoke cost, so that you do something. And we're getting kind of a new style of this. We'd seen, evoke elementals that require you to exile a card of a corresponding color to be able to evoke it, and you end up getting some kind of thing. Now you have a creature, like Emptiness as the example, that is going to have an evoke cost that is tied to, or at least a mana cost that is going to be tied to what ETB that you end up getting. So this actually is a way that you can end up not abusing or not being able to abuse like the ETB. So for like Emptiness, it's a 6 mana 3/5, but it has evoke for, a hybrid white and black, double white and black. If white was spent to cast this creature, you return a card with mana value 3 or less from a creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if black was spent to cast it, you put 3 -1/-1 counters on up to 1 target creature. And of course, for 6 mana, you get a 3/5 that can bring back a 3 mana creature. And if you spent, obviously if you're playing these 2 colors, you're probably able to get both of these benefits. So you're able to essentially, give -3/-3 counters to 1 creature, and then return a creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is a really neat design. This is a way that you can't just, for 3 mana, I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could, but you're not getting like the full benefit of something like a Solitude where, you're exiling a white card and then you're going to exile a creature and then ephemerating it and doing the same thing and getting a 3/2 around. I think that this is a really neat design for kind of like these evoke elementals in a way that that they don't end up getting abused like a lot of the other evoke elementals that we've seen throughout Magic's history. And we have Ashling Rekindled here, which there are these kind of flip cards that end up having, like at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay blue, and if you do, you transform Ashling. And whenever this creature enters or transforms into Ashling Rekindled, you discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. Which then, if you pay that cost, you can transform this, and then when this creature transforms into Ashling Rimbound, and at the beginning of your first main phase, you add 2 mana of any 1 color, spend this mana to only cast spells with converted mana cost of 4 or greater. and with mana value 4 or greater, and then you can, on your first main phase, pay red to transform it. So you can kind of flip these cards back and forth. You know, we've seen flip mechanics before where you just cast one side or the other, or you meet some sort of requirement and transform it, and there's no way for it to really transform back. We'd see this from like the Nightbound, Daybound creatures, where you have to cast an amount of spells or not cast any spells to get it to change the day-night cycle, whatever. These are cards that at the beginning of your first main phase, you are able to pay a associated color mana to then transform these creatures from their front and back. So I think just a really neat kind of innovation there. Catch up all the details, reading Collecting Lorwyn Eclipsed, a first look, and the Planeswalker Guide to Lorwyn Eclipse. This set is going to be released January 23rd of 2026 and is available for pre-order now from your local game store, online retailers like Amazon, and anywhere else Magic products are sold. Super exciting here. The upcoming Universes Beyond set, this is going to be announced at New York Comic Con on October 10th. So that will be available on tabletop at MTG Arena. Once we announce the set, we will publish the reveals right here on Daily MTG. So we're going to have to wait for that, but that's the first Universes Beyond set of 2026. We have Secrets of Strixhaven, which it didn't feel like that long ago. We were at Strixhaven, and I was like, man, it felt like we were there just a few years ago, and like Strixhaven was, came out in like, I think 2021 or something like that, 21 or 22. Gotta get my little bit of caffeine in there. So pretty crazy. We're actually going back to Strixhaven. I really enjoyed the set in terms of like drafting it. The times where I did get to draft it, like on Arena, and of course playing with a lot of the cards and playing with Expressive Iteration and Modern still, ended up being a super impactful constructed card at the time. And maybe not necessarily as much as it was before, where it even is currently banned, I believe, in Pioneer still, and ended up being banned. I think it's standard as well. I mean, it just ended up being a very powerful cantrip. But class is back in session with Secrets of Strixhaven. English is very hard for me today, apparently. We're returning to Arcavios and the greatest school in the multiverse, Strixhaven University. Our adventure-hungry cohort from Lorwyn Eclipsed is hitting the books for a new academic adventure. This time, we'll be taking a closer look at off-campus life as the brave students explore what lies beyond the walls of their college, which is going to be setting up the Harry Potter Universes Beyond. I just feel it in my bones. You can explore Strixhaven in the set release in April. Additionally, we're excited to announce Strixhaven Omen of Chaos, a brand new young adult novel written by Seanan McGuire. This novel will follow a different group of Strixhaven students on their quest to discover what they're meant to be and where in the wide multiverse they might belong. We'll share more about this novel in the future, but for now, check out the cover and this Command Tower promo that comes with the novel. So that's pretty neat there. I mean, like I'd be interested in doing some reading here. I don't necessarily do it with Magic cards a lot, but books I could probably get into that. The second Universes Beyond set we're going to get is Magic the Gathering Marvel Superheroes. Calling all Marvel fans, we are assembling Earth's mightiest heroes beyond the Magic the Gathering Marvel Superheroes. The next set in collaboration with Marvel. This massive set draws upon characters from across the Marvel universe, ranging from famous superhero teams to villains bent on world domination. We'll be doing more about this team up in the future when it's time to assemble, which is, again, kind of what we expect for some of the other sets, Magic the Gathering, The Hobbit, Reality Fracture. We have to wait until October, so we're going from March all the way to October before we get an in-universe Magic the Gathering set. Here's a subtle machinations will finally shatter the facade, revealing a villain you'll have to see to believe, but just not yet. More will be unveiled soon. There will be more to share about Reality Fracture in the future. But for now, keep an eye on the Magic story and see how the saga unfolds. And then to end the year, we have Magic the Gathering Star Trek, which I think is just another kind of like high fantasy thing that is probably just in general really good for Magic. I'm assuming that since Star Wars kind of has like their own card game, there's probably not going to be any sort of collaboration and stuff going on with Star Wars. That's what I would kind of expect. Actually, I'm not even sure. I don't know. I really don't know. I guess never say never in the world of capitalism here. But it takes us to the final frontier of Star Trek. Invites players to journey across the stars. The set will be warping into your hands on November 2026, featuring characters from the story and, of course, spaceships from the entire franchise, which is kind of cool that Edge of Eternities did kind of set up Star Trek here and some of these other like space themed sets to have a very different style of card here. So Star Trek will voyage to tabletop at Magic the Arena next year, and we'll have more to share on this set in the future. Until then, prepare to boldly go where no Magic set has gone before, which honestly I have a really hard time believing that is even possible at this point, because we're just doing 360s over the Shark Tank here. But, in general, as I kind of said before, I think if you're like a collector and stuff like that, maybe I said in a different previous iteration of this video, I don't even know anymore. I think that this is going to be like great for collectors. I think Universes Beyond is really cool for people that are fans of the franchise. Of course, we know why Universes Beyond, like these crossovers exist, not only in Magic, but, in things like Fortnite or really any other kind of like pop culture thing or anything that's really popular, is the fact that they work. They literally print money. It is more financially rewarding a lot of the time to do these crossover sets and kind of get new blood into the game, and then kind of hopefully knock them out with some of your own in-universe stuff here. But of course, as I've kind of pushed throughout this whole thing, we're having 7 sets, and 4 of them are going to be Universes Beyond, with 3 of them being in-universe Magic sets. Now, if you wanted to get this down to 6, I'm not even fully confident that, Lorwyn Eclipse, Secrets of Strixhaven, or Reality Fracture would actually end up surviving. I think that if they were to go down to 6 sets, they would cut one of the in-universe sets for Universes Beyond. And really, that's not a good feeling. I really enjoyed, the once a year, where we got like a major set release for Universes Beyond. I think that would be like a really cool and fun crossover. This is just kind of, instead of it being kind of like a nice mix of like, Final Fantasy, maybe kind of the return of Lord of the Rings, or at least, The Hobbit, whether it's actually significantly different, obviously I have no idea, so feel free to roast me in the comments about it, or, having Marvel superheroes, whatever, this just isn't necessarily fun. Like for me, a lot of what got me into Magic the Gathering is I thought the gameplay was a lot of fun, and as I kind of played, the characters really kind of drew me in, and I've almost felt like I had a vested interest. I mean, like at really like the height of like me playing competitive Magic, which ended up being really before COVID, when I had a lot less responsibilities as kind of being a younger adult. I was totally engrossed in the story. I was just totally diving headfirst into literally every piece of content that I could read, I could watch, get my hands on, play, whatever the case may be. And this makes it incredibly hard to, because I think that for as like a content creator, this is going to be like a lot of stuff going on. This is a lot of stuff for us to kind of talk about and go over. But as far as being a player, and being a competitive player, it just doesn't seem like it's a lot of fun when a lot of it is just like, oh, I'm playing with cards from insert crossover here, rather than getting to really enjoy the cards and stuff that we see from the in-universe sets in Magic the Gathering. And unfortunately, I think for as long as Universes Beyond ends up still printing money and Hasbro ends up being kind of a shit company, for lack of a better term, in terms of like financials, outside of something like Magic the Gathering, this is probably going to end up being the norm. And hopefully when we go down to 6 Magic sets, I hope that it ends up at the, in the worst case being 3 and 3, and we get 3 Magic the Gathering set, and 3 in-universe sets, 3 Universes Beyond sets, call it a day. Obviously, I would like that to be more. I would like it to be probably more 4 and 2, or really 5 and 1, in favor of in-universe sets, just because there's a lot of cool things that have yet to really be explored in its own universe in Magic the Gathering, and this kind of like, while it does kind of extend, I guess, the life of those stories that you can kind of tell, I also think that those stories just need to be told, rather than, these super long buildups and stuff, because I think you're starting to put the carriage before the horse, or however that saying ends up going. But yeah, I think in general, as far as like individually these sets, I think that they're going to be more than likely done very great. I can't imagine that any of these sets are necessarily going to be bad. A lot of the limited formats have been great. A lot of the card designs, I think, have been awesome and really cool. So I think from kind of this is a set that's coming out there, I think that we're going to knock it out of the park here. as far as like the competitive side of Magic, this is just going to be absolutely atrocious to kind of like keep track of. And of course, like Universes Beyond as well ends up kind of fetching a higher price, especially if cards are, especially if cards are playable. I mean, if they're format staples, like this is the de facto like best card to play in the format, you end up running into this problem where, you know, these cards end up being really expensive because of just the in general expensive nature of the Universes Beyond set. So this is going to be pretty dangerous. We're going to be navigating some slippery territory here in 2026. We'll kind of have to see how things end up playing out. But I mean, I find it very hard to believe that Magic the Gathering will not go on, will not continue to march on. It just depends on, you know, if the players are at the breaking point, or if we're just going to continue to bend farther and farther and kind of allow the Universes Beyond to dominate the competitive space, or really just continue to buy it at a way higher clip than, you know, any of the in-universe stuff. But, you know, feel free to let me know in the comments down below your feelings of this release schedule, maybe what you like about it, what you don't like about it, whatever the case may be. I would be interested in hearing your thoughts and comments in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so, and be on the lookout for some future Lorwyn Eclipse stuff going on here. Of course, we have Avatar coming out as well. Oh my god. And then we have the regional championship coming up as well that we're going to be going to in Houston here in 2 weekends. So definitely super excited of that, and excited to see any of you that may be attending the event as well. You know, if you see me, feel free to say hi, all that fun stuff. I had a few people actually stop and say hi to me, you know, at the regional championship in Washington, D.C. when that was Pioneer. Feels like almost a lifetime ago then. But, you know, I'm excited to go back. So I definitely appreciate all of you for watching, hanging out with me kind of as we rambled through and kind of looked at some of the cool things coming in 2026. But that's going to do it for me in this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next one.